struggling to comprehend the night's turmoil. The wails had ceased, but a murmur of conversation wafted from downstairs. My parents were talking. An eerie stillness enveloped our old home, a place steeped in peculiar details, etched into my memory over a decade of existence. The ancient floorboards beneath my bare feet creaked as I crept towards my bedroom door. A decade had passed, but I could recall the minutiae, the distinctive groans of the floor, the dusty boards that would elicit a sneeze, and the night shadows that silently danced across the room. The moonlight spilled around me as I opened the door, revealing a pale wash casting shadows in the hallway. Confusion and fear tangled in my mind, clouding my thoughts. The journey to the top of the stairs became a series of cautious inches, shrouded in uncertainty. The raised voices of my parents echoed through the corridor. Unlike our old home, here in the middle of nowhere, their heated exchange wouldn't rouse distant neighbors. No one lived within a mile isolation was both our refuge and our cage. Gripping the doorknob of my brother's room, I found Maria, my 6-year-old sister, wide-eyed and tousled. Oddly, our elder brother Ryan hadn't emerged from his room. Typically, he would intervene, a soothing presence to guide us back to sleep during their nocturnal arguments. "Go to bed," I whispered to Maria, who frowned but retreated, leaving her door ajar. As I tiptoed towards the top of the stairs, a chilling breeze signaled the unseen tensions below. My father's voice, demanding and loud, cut through the night's silence. "Tell you again. Now, don't make me do it, Lisa." "Do what?" My mother's responses, a desperate mixture of anger and tears, left me teetering on the precipice of understanding. "Crazy. Don't do this. Call the police. Phone an ambulance. Please, David, please." My silent dissent halted as my father's interrogations intensified. His questions, laced with a low, threatening tone, sought a revelation about rules and possible breaches. My mother's tearful denials formed a dissonant symphony of despair. In the tense exchange, the realization struck something was amiss, a secret unraveling within the walls of our newfound inheritance. The more my mother pleaded for help, the more my father remained obstinate, demanding answers to cryptic questions. "Did anyone come in the house?" he pressed, his tone reaching a crescendo. "Did any of you leave?" "No, David, please." My mother's desperate cries merged with the footsteps ascending the stairs. Panic seized me, and I retreated to my room, eavesdropping on their disintegrating world. The door creaked open, and my mother's pleas intensified. The hallway transformed into a stage for their domestic tragedy. As the unsettling drama unfolded, my sister's innocence became collateral damage in their dispute. My father's inquiries painted a portrait of a distorted reality, where unseen rules dictated our fate. The night was now a surreal tapestry of fear, misunderstanding, and an ominous sense that we were passengers on a journey to an unknown destination. The door closed and the rattling of keys echoed. My mother's voice transformed into a scream as I clutched my phone, contemplating escape from the surreal nightmare. The minutes crawled, each second marked by a shiver down my spine. Time became both an ally and an enemy as the night spun its intricate web. In the hushed aftermath, my father's heavy steps retreated to my sister's room, and I questioned my role in this unfolding tragedy. The encounter between my parents, enigmatic and unsettling, left me yearning for answers, stranded in a maze of familial disintegration. As I ventured into the shadowy corridors of our home, the chilling realization dawned my father's inheritance carried a legacy more profound than material wealth. The hidden rules, the unanswered questions, and the palpable tension hinted at a history we were never meant to understand. The night unfolded like a surreal nightmare, an amalgamation of fear and disquiet, where familial bonds strained under the weight of unspoken truths. In the stillness of dawn, my father's past had become a haunting presence, unraveling our sense of normalcy and plunging us into a world where rules dictated the rhythm of our lives. As the first light of morning filtered through the windows, I found myself standing at the crossroads of uncertainty. The echoes of a gunshot lingered in the air, a chilling punctuation to a night that had forever altered the fabric of our existence. A tale of a timeless neighbor. You won't believe the bizarre twist to the strange happenings in our neighborhood. A story that feels like a surreal chapter in the tapestry of my own life. It all centers around the enigmatic neighbor living just beyond our backyard. A character that seems to transcend the ordinary flow of time. Let me vividly describe him for you. Picture a thin, older fellow with long white hair, adorned in a retro Bulls jacket, a living relic from decades past. Every morning and evening, like clockwork, he strolls with his dog along the property line, his piercing gaze fixed on our homes. One evening, as we were preparing for a leisurely stroll to the park, he approached. His eyes lacked warmth, fixated on my niece and nephew. His questions were eccentric, leaving an unsettling unease lingering in the air. Attempts to discuss his dog were futile. He seemed to exist within a reality of his own creation. Even my own family couldn't escape the chill of his disturbing gaze. My mom, innocently sunbathing in the backyard, caught him peering through the bushes like a silent observer to her private moments. One night, as I stepped outside our workout room for a moment of solitude, the tension in the air thickened. A haunting whistle cut through the rain, and unseen eyes seemed to follow my every move. I rushed inside, locking the door behind me, but the feeling of being watched persisted. Driving past him became an unnerving routine. His unwavering stare followed me until he disappeared from view. It struck me this was no regular neighbor. He was the embodiment of a malevolent presence, an unsettling figure seemingly plucked from a different era. The surreal part? A mysterious aspect of time itself. We uncovered records suggesting that this man, with his old-fashioned attire, only existed in this neighborhood 50 years ago. The house he resides in had been abandoned ever since, a relic frozen in time. As the days passed, the line between reality and nightmare blurred even more. Whispers of his peculiar behavior and the distortion in time became the neighborhood's clandestine secret, casting a shadow over our once peaceful community. Was he just a quirky old man, or did something more sinister lurk within the depths of his unsettling gaze? And so, I share this mind-bending tale of the neighbor who defies the boundaries of time, a mystery forever etched in the chapters of my life, leaving us questioning the very fabric of our reality. Diner of the past. In the misty summer of 2008, as the night fog enveloped the town, I found myself on my familiar route home. Change was a rare commodity in our small town, so imagine my bewilderment when, through the fog, I spotted an antiquated yet elegant diner on the side of an old county road. Drawn to the decaying yet oddly modern structure, I entered the pothole-ridden parking lot. The darkened glass windows revealed a sign, Paul's Diner, 24-hour service. Strangely, there had never been a Paul's Diner in our town, let alone one nestled beside an ancient road flanked by woods. My skepticism grew as I approached the entrance, my car the sole occupant of the poorly lit lot. The door creaked open, revealing an older lady, seemingly in her mid-50s, who warmly greeted me. "Hello, darling. Welcome to Paul's. Come on in." Bewildered, I hesitated, wondering if she had been watching me. She casually mentioned the diner's half-century existence, a claim that defied my nightly drives. Puzzled, I questioned her about the town's history, only to be met with a concerned gaze. "Are you okay, sugar? You look a little pale. Come inside and have a warm cup of coffee." Despite my reservations, I followed her into the dimly lit diner, contemplating how I had never noticed such an ancient-looking place. Seated alone in this unfamiliar diner, I pondered the possibility of fatigue clouding my perception. The waitress returned with coffee, and as I sipped it, I grappled with the eerie feeling of being in a place that shouldn't exist. Glancing at my phone, I discovered no service, a stark contrast to my usual reception on that road. Curiosity led me to inquire about using a phone, only to be guided to a relic from the 1950s. Dialing my brother's number, I was met with an unsettling message. "We are sorry. The number you have dialed cannot be reached at this time." Panic set in. I had just spoken to him minutes ago. Leaving money on the table, I headed to the door, only to notice a surreal scene outside. A full parking lot, 1950s-style cars, and people inside the diner singing to 50s tunes. My confusion spiraled when I saw everyone dressed in 50s attire. My disorientation intensified, causing me to lose balance, and the waitress turned hostess caught me. Stammering, I asked if everything was okay. My gaze shifted upward, and my scream echoed as the waitress's appearance changed to that of a burnt corpse. Recoiling, I stumbled out into the parking lot, witnessing the diner filled with lifeless figures. I fled, and upon checking my phone, time seemed frozen, with only a minute elapsed. Driving away, I noticed I was the sole car in the lot, and time had reverted to 3 a.m. Sharing the bizarre encounter with my wife proved futile. But online, I discovered others' similar experiences on Old County Road 9. A historical site revealed a 1955 fire at Paul's Diner, a place that haunted the road, trapping unsuspecting travelers in a ghostly 50s limbo. I abandoned that road, and the ghostly diner has not revisited my nocturnal journeys since. The ghost from the past. In the year 2005, during my 10th year, I formed an unusual friendship with a classmate named Ethan. Our interactions were limited to the confines of the school, where we would play and share laughs during those fleeting moments of childhood joy. However, one day, an unsettling experience unfolded that challenged the very essence of my reality. Ethan and I, having never ventured beyond the walls of the school, decided to change that. He gave me an address on a familiar street and described the house where he lived, suggesting we meet there after school. As I arrived at the agreed-upon location outside Ethan's described house after school, an eerie feeling settled in the air. Ethan wasn't there. Confused and concerned, I decided to investigate. I knocked on doors and asked neighbors if they had seen Ethan. To my surprise, nobody seemed to know of a kid named Ethan in our neighborhood. Determined, I broadened my search, knocking on doors one after another. As I stood near the location where we were supposed to meet, an elderly man stepped out of a nearby house. He looked at me with a mix of curiosity and sadness. It was then that I inquired about Ethan. The elderly man's response sent chills down my spine. "Ethan?" he murmured, his gaze distant. "I haven't heard that name in many, many years. It's a name from a time long ago, a name that brings back memories. But no, it can't be the same Ethan." I stood there, perplexed. The elderly man explained that he knew the name Ethan, but hadn't heard it in decades. It was a name from his past, a past that seemed disconnected from the present. As I described Ethan's appearance, an ordinary kid from the 1940s with typical short hair and attire, I asked reassuringly, "Are you certain it couldn't be the same Ethan?" The elderly man squinted, trying to visualize the image I painted. After a moment, he shook his head. "No, it can't be. The Ethan I knew would be wearing clothes from a bygone era. The one you describe seems different." In my attempt to clarify, I vividly depicted Ethan a boy with tousled, short brown hair, donning a worn-out baseball cap that shielded his eyes. He wore faded blue overalls, a striped shirt, and scuffed-up sneakers, embodying the essence of a carefree 1940s youngster. Suddenly, the elderly man's expression changed. Anger flashed in his eyes as he accused me of playing a prank, claiming that I couldn't possibly know about his long-lost brother. In frustration, he dismissed my words and retreated back into his house, leaving me standing there, bewildered. The next day at school, an unsettling anticipation lingered in the air. The usual laughter and chatter of the schoolyard seemed subdued. Questions about Ethan, the house, and the elderly man lingered in my mind, challenging the very essence of my reality.